It all started with a single text message. "Meet me at the party. I need to tell you something." That was all Isabel wrote. My best friend. The woman I had trusted with everything. I didn't think much of it. She was always dramatic. Always a little over the top. But that night, at the party I threw, everything changed. Isabel had always been the one who wanted more. She envied my life. My career. My marriage. It wasn't obvious at first. But it was there. In the way she smiled a little too wide when she congratulated me. In the way she made me feel like I didn't deserve the happiness I had. That night, I was the perfect host. I was laughing, chatting with friends, and feeling proud of how everything was going. Then I turned around and saw Isabel standing by the drinks table, watching me from a distance. Something in her eyes was different. She looked hungry. Like she was waiting for the moment to strike. I thought I was imagining things. But then came the knock at the door. The police. And suddenly, everything was spinning. The body was in the next room. My husband was dead. I was standing over him, holding the knife. The police didn't question me. They just assumed I had snapped. There was blood everywhere. My fingerprints were on the weapon. And Isabel. She was gone. Slipped out of the party unnoticed, leaving me to take the fall for something I didn't do. But here's the thing she didn't expect. I wasn't going to fight back. I wasn't going to scream my innocence. I was going to let her think she got away with it. I was going to let her think she won. Because I had something better in mind. I was going to wait for the truth to come crashing down. And when it did, she would wish she had never crossed me. I never saw it coming. It started with a simple text, as innocent as any other. "Meet me at the party. I need to tell you something." Isabel, my best friend for years, had been a part of my life through everything. We shared everything. Our dreams. Our failures. Our secrets. I didn't think much of her message. After all, we were celebrating a major milestone for me that night. A huge promotion, a life goal achieved. Everyone was there, friends, colleagues, family. It was supposed to be the night I could finally relax and enjoy everything I'd worked so hard for. But Isabel? She wasn't smiling as much. I noticed it halfway through the party. She was standing by herself, watching me from across the room. It wasn't the usual warmth in her gaze. It was something cold. Hungry. I excused myself from a conversation with a colleague and went over to her. "What's going on?" I asked, giving her a half smile. She didn't smile back. "I need to talk to you," Isabel said, her voice quiet but firm. "Something happened today, and you need to know. It's about your husband, Mark." I felt my stomach twist. Mark and I had been together for almost a decade. Perfect marriage, perfect life. At least, that's what I always thought. Isabel had always been a little jealous, but I never thought it was anything more than harmless envy. She never made it obvious, always supporting me with fake enthusiasm. That night, her words were different. "What about Mark?" I asked, already sensing something was wrong. Her eyes flickered. She hesitated. Then she dropped the bomb. "I saw him with someone else today," Isabel whispered, glancing around like someone might overhear. "He wasn't just talking to her. He was touching her. You need to know this. He's been seeing her behind your back for months." The words didn't hit me right away. It was like my mind was in denial, refusing to process what I was hearing. My husband? My perfect husband? I watched Isabel's eyes closely, trying to figure out if she was playing a sick joke. "I don't believe you," I said, shaking my head. "This isn't funny, Isabel." She didn't react, her expression never wavering. "It's the truth. I swear." I tried to laugh it off, but my gut told me there was more to this. Isabel had never been the type to just throw something like this out without an agenda. But I didn't have time to process it. I had a party to manage, and a life to keep together. Later that night, the moment that would change everything came. Mark and I got into a heated argument. I wasn't ready to confront him about Isabel's accusations yet, but the tension between us was thick. He kept trying to avoid my gaze, trying to brush me off like nothing was wrong. And then, there it was. The knock on the door. The police. It was strange at first. No one had ever knocked on my door with such urgency before. I opened it to see 2 officers, their faces serious, their eyes scanning the room. "Maya Lin?" one of them asked. "Why, yes," I replied, suddenly feeling sick. "We need to speak with you. There's been an incident." They didn't explain much at first. Just that they had found a body. My mind went into overdrive. Was it Mark? Was it Isabel? Someone at the party? The officers didn't have to tell me anything else. As soon as I walked into the next room, I saw him, Mark, lying motionless on the floor. His face pale. Blood pooled around him. The world seemed to stop. I turned around to see Isabel. She was standing in the corner, watching me. I tried to speak, to say something, anything, but words wouldn't come. The police pulled me aside and told me I was being detained, that they had found the murder weapon, and that my fingerprints were on it. I couldn't understand. I couldn't process it. How? Why? This didn't make sense. But the evidence was clear. I was the last one seen with Mark. I had the knife in my hand, my fingerprints all over it. And Isabel? She was gone. She disappeared from the party, disappeared from the scene, without a word. She knew exactly when to slip away. I tried to tell the officers that I was innocent, that I didn't do it. But they didn't believe me. They were too busy looking at the obvious, the blood, the knife, the cold way I stood there in shock. Nothing about me seemed right. But I knew the truth. Isabel had framed me. She had made sure I was the one left holding the knife. I couldn't prove it, not yet. Not with everything stacked against me. I was arrested that night. No questions. No trial. Just an assumption that I had killed the man I loved. Isabel had set the perfect trap. And I, in my confusion and shock, walked right into it. The police station was colder than I imagined. The bright fluorescent lights felt harsh above me, buzzing incessantly, and the air was stale. I sat in the interrogation room alone, my mind racing in every direction. I couldn't understand what was happening. The shock of seeing Mark's lifeless body, the way the police had immediately pinned the murder on me, it was like something out of a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But even in the haze of confusion, one thing was clear. I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I was still trying to wrap my head around everything when the detective finally entered. He was tall, gruff, with a look that said he'd seen it all. He sat across from me, his gaze never leaving me. "Maya Lin," he began, his voice steady, "we've been through the evidence. Your fingerprints are on the knife. You were the last one seen with the victim, your husband. We have a witness who claims they saw you arguing. It's not looking good for you." I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. What could I say? The evidence was damning. The pieces all fit. I could already feel the walls closing in. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" he asked, almost bored. I looked at him, my eyes hardening with frustration and fear. "I didn't kill him," I said quietly. "I loved him. I would never. The detective leaned back in his chair, giving me a long, considering look. "Well, you'll have time to explain it all in court. But right now, we have a job to do." He stood up, walking toward the door, but stopped just before he left. "Isabel," he said casually. "She told us everything." My heart stopped. Isabel. My best friend. The person I had trusted more than anyone in the world. She was the one who had told the police. She was the one who had implicated me. I didn't know if it was rage or betrayal that coursed through me, but I could feel my blood boil. Isabel had always been there for me. She had been by my side when things were tough, helping me through every obstacle. How could she do this? I wanted to scream, to shout at the detective, to tell him that Isabel was the one who set me up, but I couldn't. Not yet. There was too much at stake. They would never believe me. Not now, not with everything stacked against me. Not without proof. As the detective left, I sat there in silence, my mind racing. What had Isabel said? What had she told them? But I couldn't focus on that yet. I needed to think. I needed to get out of here. Hours later, I was finally released from the interrogation room. The police didn't have enough to hold me, but they weren't letting me go free either. I was under investigation, and they had made it clear that I wasn't to leave the area. I couldn't go back to my apartment. I couldn't go anywhere. The next few days were a blur. I was stuck in limbo, waiting for my court date, while my life was being torn apart by a lie I couldn't even prove. I had to get out. I had to find a way to clear my name. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mark's face, the way he looked when I found him. Blood staining the carpet. His eyes wide open, staring blankly at the ceiling. And I thought about Isabel. About how she had been there. About how she had manipulated everything. She was the one who had slipped away. She was the one who had known exactly when to call the police. I didn't know how she had done it, but I knew one thing. Isabel had planned everything. The next day, I started digging. I started going through my phone. I searched for any messages from Isabel. Anything that could prove I wasn't the one who killed Mark. There were the usual texts, the ones where we made plans to meet up, to talk about our lives. But nothing that looked suspicious at first glance. And then I found something. A text from Isabel. The day before Mark was found dead. "It'll all be over soon. Don't worry. Everything will be in place." I stared at the message. The date matched. It was the day before the murder. The calmness of it. The way she spoke about it like it was already decided. It made my skin crawl. This wasn't just a setup. This was cold, calculated manipulation. I looked through the rest of the messages, scanning for anything else that could link Isabel to the crime. And then I found more. "I'll make sure it's you, not me. Don't worry. It'll work." That was it. She had set me up. She had planned this all along. My hands shook as I stared at the texts. Isabel was the mastermind behind everything, and I had been too blind to see it. I immediately forwarded the messages to my lawyer. There was no time to waste. But even with this evidence, I knew that Isabel wouldn't back down. She was a master manipulator. She had always been good at controlling people. I had to be smarter. I had to stay calm. The next step was clear. I needed to turn the tables. Isabel had made a fatal mistake by leaving a trail, and now it was time to expose her. But I wasn't going to rush in. No. I was going to wait. I would play the victim for now. I would let her believe she had gotten away with it. And when she thought everything was over, that's when I would strike back. Days passed, and nothing changed. The police continued their investigation, but they were stuck. The evidence against me was damning, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they were only seeing the surface of something much deeper. Isabel had played her part too well, and everyone believed her. Everyone except me. I stayed silent. The media ran with their version of events. Wife caught in murder mystery. Jealous spouse snaps, ending it all in a violent rage. It was like watching my own life being turned into a true crime show. But I wasn't going to react. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. It was hard to stay composed when every single day felt like I was sinking deeper into a hole. The whispers, the judgment. Everyone thought I was guilty. My lawyer kept advising me to take the high road, to stay quiet and let the truth eventually come out. But he didn't know Isabel. He didn't know the kind of person she was. For the first time, I began to play the role she'd assigned to me, the victim. I let the police think I was broken. I let them believe I was just a woman who couldn't face the truth. I let Isabel think she'd won. But that's the thing about silence. It makes people careless. It forces them to speak without realizing they're revealing too much. I had one goal now: expose Isabel. Days turned into weeks, and Isabel's grip on my life tightened. She stayed out of the public eye, but I knew she was enjoying every second of my downfall. Every day, the messages from her got colder, more detached. The support she had once given me was gone. I was just a tool for her to manipulate, a piece in her game. But then, something changed. I received a package one afternoon. There was no return address. Just my name written in a scrawled, familiar handwriting. Inside, I found a small flash drive. No note. No explanation. I didn't hesitate. I plugged it into my laptop and opened the files. It was a video. The first few minutes were just static, but then the image cleared, and I saw her. Isabel. She was sitting in a room, her face lit by the soft glow of a desk lamp. She was talking to someone, but the audio was low. I turned up the volume, my pulse quickening. "I'm almost done," Isabel said, her voice cold and deliberate. "Just a few more days, and it'll be over. Maya will be in prison for good. And once she's gone, everything is mine. The house, her job, everything." I froze. My stomach churned. The betrayal cut deeper than I had imagined. But it didn't end there. She thinks she's got this figured out, but she's too weak. She'll crack soon. And when she does, I'll make sure she never sees the light of day again. Isabel's laugh echoed through the video, dark and cruel. That was the moment I knew I had everything I needed. Isabel had just handed me the most damning evidence possible. She had unwittingly confessed to everything. But I couldn't act too quickly. If I went public with this, it would be too obvious. She would find a way to explain it away. I needed to be patient. I needed her to expose herself completely. I sent the video to my lawyer. "We're ready," he texted me back. But he didn't know the full extent of my plan. I played the part of the broken, confused woman for another few days. I didn't answer Isabel's calls. I didn't respond to her texts. I didn't even look at her social media posts. The more she talked, the more she revealed. She started posting about me again, but this time, something was different. She was acting like she had nothing to do with the situation. She was the victim now, poor Isabel, wronged by a jealous and unhinged wife. She took to social media, framing herself as the person who had tried to help me. "I just wanted to be there for her," she claimed in one post. But she never understood. Now look where we are. I knew she was lying. But to everyone else, she was the sympathetic friend who had tried to help, only to be dragged into a tragic situation. I had to let her keep going. Then came the day I had been waiting for. I was sitting in the living room of my new place when I saw it. A video of Isabel. She was sitting in front of her phone, talking to her followers, her face bright and eager. "Hey guys, I just wanted to update you all on the situation. As you know, it's been a tough couple of weeks. Maya and we've had our issues, but I think it's time we start looking at the bigger picture." Her voice was calm, too calm. I knew something was coming. "I've been thinking a lot," she continued, "and I realize that I need to be honest with everyone. Maya, my best friend, has been keeping a lot from you all. And the truth is, I've been protecting her for a long time." My heart stopped. She was going to say it. She's been hiding things. Secrets. And it's time the world knows the truth about what she's really been up to. I watched, stunned, as she outlined a completely fabricated story about me. She painted me as a manipulative woman who had been planning her husband's murder for months. She claimed I had manipulated her, threatened her, and used my charm to get what I wanted. And then, the moment she'd waited for, Isabel smiled into the camera. "It's time for the truth to come out," she said. "And I think everyone will understand once they hear it." But here's the thing about lies. They don't last forever. The video she posted was her final mistake. Within hours, the truth had already started to spread. My lawyer had already filed for defamation, and I was ready to make my move. Isabel had just handed me the perfect opportunity. I went live that night. I started with the video. The one she thought she had hidden so well. I played it for the world to hear. Isabel's confession. "I've been trying to take everything from Maya," she had said. "And I'll do whatever it takes." And then, I added something she never expected. The video footage of her that I had secretly recorded months ago. Her plans. Her manipulations. Her twisted version of events. The comments flooded in almost immediately. The internet was alive with rage, disbelief, and shock. And in that moment, Isabel realized she had made a fatal error. She had underestimated me. The notifications came in faster than I could read them. My phone buzzed relentlessly, the screen flashing with comments, likes, and shares. My heart raced as I watched the reactions roll in, knowing full well that everything I had worked for, the evidence, the silence, the strategy, was coming to fruition. Isabel had no idea what she had just done. She thought she could control the narrative. She thought her fabricated story would silence me, bury me under the weight of public judgment. But what she hadn't counted on was me learning how to stay quiet long enough for her to expose herself. Now, it was my turn. As soon as the video ended, I saw Isabel's face freeze. Her mouth opened and closed as she watched helpless, while her carefully constructed lies fell apart on live stream. I didn't waste time. I addressed the camera, knowing that millions were watching. Isabel thought she could destroy me. She thought she could frame me for something I didn't do. But the truth doesn't stay buried forever, I said, my voice calm, controlled. I didn't raise my voice, didn't scream at her. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke for itself. I replayed the audio clip of Isabel confessing to me about how she had orchestrated everything. Her voice, cold and calculated, admitting to framing me for the murder of my husband. I showed the text messages where she explicitly said, "It'll all be over soon. Everything will be in place." I even pulled up screenshots of our previous conversations, where she had subtly undermined me, planted seeds of doubt, and manipulated situations to her advantage. But that wasn't the end. I knew Isabel would try to deflect, to explain it away. She was already making excuses, her fingers shaking as she typed out responses on her phone. But I had something she didn't expect, proof of her lies from the very beginning. I pulled up a timeline of the events from the day Mark died, comparing it with the messages Isabel had sent me leading up to the incident. Her alibi fell apart as the evidence stacked up. Notice how Isabel's story kept changing? She never got the details right because she wasn't telling the truth. She was creating a story that fit her agenda, I said, pointing to the inconsistencies on the screen. The internet didn't take long to turn against her. The backlash was immediate and unforgiving. People began digging through her past posts, photos, and interactions. Isabel's so-called heroic status crumbled as more and more people realized she had used me to get what she wanted. Her public image was destroyed, and it was happening right in front of her eyes. Isabel tried to go live to defend herself, but the comments were overwhelming. They were filled with outrage, disgust, and disbelief. "You're a monster, Isabel. You destroyed a family for what? Power. I can't believe I ever trusted you." Her face on the screen was pale, her hands trembling. She tried to apologize, to make excuses, but the damage was done. "I never meant for it to go this far," she pleaded in a trembling voice. "I just wanted." "You just wanted everything," I interrupted, cutting her off. "You wanted my life, my success, my husband. You wanted to destroy everything I had, and you tried to do it by using the one person who trusted you the most." She was silent for a moment, and I knew the realization hit her. The lie she had crafted wasn't just unraveling, it was imploding. Hours later, it was official. Isabel's accounts were suspended. The police, who had initially thought I was the prime suspect, had been notified by my lawyer and law enforcement about her role in the entire scheme. Her confession, recorded months ago, was more than enough to bring her in for questioning. She had tried to frame me, and the truth had come crashing down on her like a tidal wave. But Isabel wasn't just facing public backlash. She was facing criminal charges. The police had already started their investigation, following up on everything I had exposed in the livestream. It didn't take long before they realized Isabel had been using her position to manipulate not only me but several other people in her life. Her carefully constructed web of lies was falling apart, and she was now under suspicion for not just framing me, but for attempting to orchestrate a murder she had carefully planned. The betrayal I had felt just days ago now seemed like a distant memory. It was replaced with something stronger: justice. The days following the livestream were filled with a quiet sort of victory. People came forward to support me, old friends, colleagues, even strangers who had been watching from afar. They expressed their shock, their disbelief at how easily Isabel had played them all. And though the shame of what happened still lingered, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Isabel, on the other hand, was completely isolated. Her social media was flooded with hate, and her followers quickly turned their backs on her. She had exposed herself to the world, and now there was no way out. But even as the world moved on and Isabel was left to face the consequences of her actions, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of closure. This wasn't just about clearing my name, it was about taking control of my life again. About not allowing someone else's manipulation to define me. One final twist came when I received a letter from Isabel. It was brief, and it arrived days after her downfall. I never meant for things to go this far. I was jealous. I wanted your life, and I thought destroying you would make me feel better. But now I see the truth. I've lost everything. Please, let me make it right. I held the letter in my hands, staring at the words. And then I crumpled it up and threw it away. There was nothing she could say to fix this. The damage was done. I had taken back what was mine. And Isabel had lost everything. The internet may have moved on, but for me, this was just the beginning. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the survivor. And this time, no one would ever have the chance to tear me down again. Weeks passed since the livestream, and yet, it felt like the world hadn't fully processed what had happened. The aftermath was a whirlwind of legal proceedings, media coverage, and overwhelming support from those who had believed in me. But even as the storm settled, I couldn't shake the weight of it all, the betrayal, the manipulation, and the way my entire life had been turned upside down by someone I had trusted more than anyone. Isabel had disappeared from public life, retreating into her own isolation, her once carefully curated image shattered. But the consequences she faced were just beginning. And as much as I had fought to expose the truth, there was something deeply satisfying about watching her crumble under the weight of her own lies. The police investigation into Isabel continued. They were thorough, gathering all the evidence I had provided during the livestream and the follow-up investigation. Isabel had been using her position in the community to manipulate others for years, playing the role of the victim while secretly tearing down those around her. It was clear now that she had been running a much larger scheme than anyone could have imagined. Her motives were simple: greed, envy, and a desire for control. Isabel had wanted my life. She wanted my marriage, my success, and my happiness. And when she couldn't have it, she did what she did best: manipulated the situation until she had me exactly where she wanted me, a woman on trial for a crime she didn't commit, with everything I loved on the line. But she didn't count on my silence. She didn't count on me waiting, watching, and collecting the evidence. She didn't count on me having the patience to wait for her to slip up. And slip up she did. The police finally uncovered something that sealed her fate. Proof that she had been in contact with a corrupt individual, someone who had assisted her in creating a fake alibi and framing me. It was a game of manipulation at the highest level. Isabel had used everyone around her, twisting their trust to fit her narrative, and now it was all falling apart. The criminal charges against Isabel were inevitable. She was arrested, tried for conspiracy, and found guilty of attempting to frame me for murder, among other charges. The justice I had been so desperate for was finally served. But it wasn't about the punishment anymore. It wasn't about seeing Isabel face the consequences of her actions. What mattered was that I was free. As the legal battle ended, I tried to return to my life. But the scars of the ordeal remained. I had lost a lot during that time: my reputation, my trust in the people I cared about, and even my sense of security. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't something that could be fixed overnight. But as I sat on my couch one evening, I realized something important. I hadn't just fought for my innocence. I hadn't just fought to clear my name. I had fought for myself. And that was the most powerful thing I could have done. I reached out to Mark's family. We had been through so much, and there was a lingering grief over his death that no one could escape. But as I sat with them and spoke honestly about the pain I had experienced, about how Isabel had manipulated me and how I had finally exposed her, I realized that I wasn't the only one who had suffered. Mark's family had lost him too. I had lost him too. But we could heal. Together. And we did. Slowly but surely. Isabel's downfall didn't come as quickly as I thought it would. After her conviction, she disappeared from public life, likely hoping that time would heal her wounds. She stayed silent. The courts stripped her of everything: her reputation, her social status, and most importantly, her credibility. She had tried to destroy me, but in the end, it was she who was destroyed. I heard from some mutual friends. Some sent messages of apology, others just distanced themselves. It was strange to realize how many people Isabel had been manipulating in the shadows, people who now saw her for who she really was. I never spoke to her again. I spent the next few months in a quiet routine. I moved to a new town, far away from the drama. I focused on rebuilding my life, my career, my relationships, and most importantly, my sense of self. I found a new sense of freedom in the silence that once terrified me. I had become a master of my own story, the person who could shape her future without the weight of betrayal crushing her every step. I spent more time with family. I reconnected with people who truly cared about me, people who saw me for who I was, not for the lies someone else had told about me. And I learned that the best way to move forward was to stop looking back at the wreckage that had once been my life. One evening, as I sat in a park, watching the sunset with a cup of coffee in my hand, I thought about everything that had happened. The pain, the heartbreak, the betrayal. It had all led me to this moment, a moment of peace. I realized that I had survived something I thought I would never survive. I had been broken, yes, but I had been rebuilt stronger. I had faced the darkness and come out the other side with a deeper understanding of who I was, and who I could be. And I had learned one of the most important lessons of all. The truth always comes out. No matter how hard you fight to bury it, the truth has a way of rising to the surface. And when it does, it has the power to change everything. I had been through hell, but I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. And Isabel. She was still lost in the web of lies she had spun, alone in her guilt and shame. Isabel's story didn't have a happy ending. She never got her redemption. She never got the life she had wanted. But I did. And that was all that mattered. In the end, I had my freedom, my peace, and my truth. And I would never let anyone take that from me again.